Good evening and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa. My pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste. My pronouns are she, her.
And what are we talking about tonight, Celeste?
We're going to talk about a historic event that I wasn't even aware of. And when I said to, my husband what the topic was, he was like, I didn't know that happened. So, imagine this.
Okay.
It is August 21st, 1911. You are in Paris, France, enjoying a quiet early morning. Likely you're a little hungover from socializing the night before, but you decide to take a stroll past the Louvre as you enjoy the summer sun. Glancing at the museum, you spot three men in painters' smocks leaving in a hurry. You pay it no mind. Plenty of workers, handymen, and guards go in and out of the Louvre as they maintain the museum and the paintings in it. But unbeknownst to you and to everyone else around you, you have just witnessed the theft of a painting that will, thanks to this act, become forever famous. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa.
Let's get into it. Intro music.
Intro music.
Okay.
I didn't tell Lisa what the topic was before I started reading, and you should see the excitement on their face.
So all Celeste had told me in the elevator to come up to the apartment was it was an art heist. And there was one, I think, mid-20th century in Massachusetts. And I was like, oh, is it that one? And Celeste was like, nah, it's a different one. But then you said Louvre. And then I'm like, oh my god. But also, if I'm doing my math right, today's the 8th. We're recording on the 18th.
I did this on purpose.
So it's dropping on the 20th, the day before the anniversary.
Mm-hmm. So my original topic was going to be the number 13 and Friday the 13th.
All right.
But I thought I'd save that topic for September because it's actually
a Friday the
13th
in September.
Yeah. So then I thought, well, what happened on August 20th, when this episode's going to drop? And apparently on August 21st, the Mona Lisa was stolen. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Also, plug for the Patreon. Also, this past week, speaking of Italian and famous art.
Yeah, that's why I was like, you're going to enjoy this episode.
So, if you're on the Patreon, you get tourism tales. And during the summer, unintentionally, I've been doing a series of, past when I've been... on the other side. Now I work in tourism, but, writing about past tours and places I've been and travel and stuff. And you get my really irritating journals from when I was 17 and in Italy and not understanding the significance of the statue of David. Because,
Lisa.
No, because, literally, I wrote, if I see more... paintings of Mary and Jesus in Rome, when we go to Rome, I might boycott Italian museums. I don't know what I thought I was going to see in Rome.
You mean Rome, aka
the
Catholic city.
We also went to the Vatican. Also don't know entirely what kind of art was going to be at the Vatican.
Literally called Roman Catholic.
But if you want to hear musings on that, support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/drearymidnight. So, tell us about this art heist.
Yes. So, I wrote this kind of like we're unraveling it as the people would have unraveled it.
Okay.
So, it's a whole script.
All right. I love it.
Sit back, listen to the dulcet tones of my storytelling.
Yes.
In October 1910... museum officials at the Louvre... Oh, by the way, disclaimer. Sorry for any mispronunciations of French and or Italian words and names. I am sorry.
We don't speak French or Italian. So, Francophones and Italian phones of Dreary Midnight, don't add us. Yeah. Or maybe do.
I know Louvre is not pronounced Louvre. That's the American way of pronouncing it. It's pronounced like Louvre or something like that. But I'm so scared of mispronouncing it that I'm just going to call it Louvre.
Okay. You know what? Grew up with the American pronunciation, so don't add us French people.
Okay.
Anyway.
In October 1910, museum officials at the Louvre had put up glass panes in front of several of their most important paintings, under the reasoning of protecting the paintings from recent acts of vandalism. However, the public and the press thought that the reflective glass detracted from the art. There was debate over the choices at the Louvre, and some Parisians joked that perhaps art had been stolen and the museum was passing off copies to the public. And that's why they had the glass panes over there. Museum director Théophile Homé retorted, "You might as well pretend that one could steal the towers of the Cathedral of Notre Dame."
I mean, half the reason the pyramids are still there is because they couldn't carry them back to England.
What I'm saying is Mans was confident.
Yeah. Had there been an art heist at all?
Yes.
In the Louvre?
So I don't know why he was so confident.
Yeah. So, but like recently there had been art heists?
There had been acts of vandalism, and in the past years, I don't know how recent, but in the past years there had been acts of art theft.
Okay. So in the decade between the turn of the 20th century and then, there had been at least a couple. Enough to warrant the concern in the paintings and everything. Yeah.
Painter Louis Barraud decided to join the debate by painting a young French girl fixing her hair in the reflection from the pane of glass in front of the Mona Lisa. Yeah, I thought that was
clever.
Yeah, cute. Now, I want to say that the Mona Lisa was not famous then. It was known because it was an early 16th century work of Leonardo da Vinci, but it was not widely known outside of the art world. Leonardo da Vinci painted it in 1507, but it wasn't until the 1860s that a small but growing circle of art critics began to hail it as a masterwork of Renaissance painting. Perhaps Barraud was a part of this circle, as it was a subject for his next painting.
Barraud is the guy.
Artist who was going to draw the French girl.
Okay.
Paint the French girl.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, August 22nd, in 1911, Barraud walked... I'm sorry, I pronounced the name like 4 different times. 4 different ways.
All right. And say it again. What year is this?
This was August 22nd, 1911. This was the day after.
Okay. So, like, people are walking by and, oh my God, it's gone.
Well, so Barraud walked into the Louvre and went to the Salon Carré, where the Mona Lisa had been on display for 5 years. But on the wall where the Mona Lisa used to hang, in between Correggio's Mystical Marriage and Titian's Allegory of Alfonso de Alvos, sat only 4 iron pegs. The artist was not immediately alarmed. At that time, there was a project underway to photograph the Louvre's many works, and each piece had to be taken to the roof since cameras of the day did not work well inside. So Barraud contacted the section head of the guards, who thought the painting must be at the photographer's. A few hours later, Barraud, who was now growing impatient, checked again with the section head. He wanted to know how long it would be before he could use the painting as a reference. It was then discovered that the Mona Lisa was not with the photographers. The section chief and other guards did a quick search of the museum. There was no Mona Lisa. Since museum director Hamel was on vacation, the curator of Egyptian antiquities was contacted. Don't know why he was next in command.
Okay.
But I thought that you would enjoy that fun fact.
Yeah, I mean, again, don't know much about what Egyptian antiquities has to do with something at least 1,000 years later, but, you know.
He was probably just like in my job, because we have such a small staff, if my director is out for the day, one of the teachers takes over as acting director.
Yeah.
It was probably something like that.
I guess, but I don't know. I guess because I'm so used to museums having such a solid hierarchy now that, like, the Egyptian antiquities is only head of Egyptian antiquities. I guess I just have a concept of the Louvre being so giant that
it's giant.
That, like, antiquities, all of the antiquities departments only know about their own antiquities departments.
Fair. Well, basically, he called the Paris police.
Yeah.
And about 60 investigators were sent over to the Louvre shortly after noon. They closed the museum and slowly let out the visitors, and then they continued their search. The truth had been determined. The Mona Lisa had been stolen.
Dun, dun, dun.
Later reports would show that the painting was stolen for 26 hours before anyone noticed it.
How did they figure that out? I assume they don't have video cameras at that point.
We get into it later, but basically interviewing staff.
Okay.
Which, in hindsight, is not entirely surprising. The Louvre Museum is the largest in the world, covering an area of about 15 acres.
Oof.
Yeah, this is a quote from Noah Charney, who is a professor of art history and author of The Theft of the Mona Lisa.
Mm.
It had over 400 rooms, but only 200 guards and even fewer on duty overnight.
Mm.
And there were basically no alarms in play.
Mm.
It was under secure, but to be fair, most museums were at that time.
Because at the same time, I feel like there is a certain level of respect for antiquities and whatever. I think I have heard a little bit of this case, and from what I recall, isn't it like an Italian guy who wanted Italian nativism or something similar to that?
We get into that.
Okay. So it's like a pro-Italian, let's bring all the Italian stuff back to Italy type of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So, but right now, they don't know what it is.
They don't know squat. They just know it's gone.
They just know it's gone.
Yeah.
After the Louvre announced the theft, newspapers all over the world ran headlines about the missing masterpiece.
Yeah.
This was an era where newspapers were really taking off, and pretty soon the theft and the image of the Mona Lisa were splashed across the world. 60 detectives seek stolen Mona Lisa. French public indignant, reported the New York Times. The heist had become something of a national scandal.
Yeah. No. I mean, no kidding. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Louvre was closed for investigations for a week after the theft was discovered, and when it reopened, there were queues outside the Louvre, mobs of people, just to see the empty space where the painting had hung. This is another quote from Charney. The theft had launched it into becoming a household name for people who had never been to Europe and had no interest in art, and it's really just continued from there. So this was also, like, when it hit the newspapers, it was kind of the French newspapers had a field day because it was basically a critique of the government.
Yeah.
And how blasé and how undersecured,
Yeah.
you know.
Was it run
the
by
Louvre
government
was.
funds at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, or like taxpayer money type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So misuse of public resources, et cetera, et cetera.
It was undersecured, the museum, and it was...
But I feel like it would have taken something of this scale to justify increasing security. Because I can also imagine a world in which there's 400 rooms and 500 guards, and in the French tax-paying public, it's like, that's too many guards, blah, blah, misuse of public resources.
Well, that's the thing, too, is obviously they were trying to put glass panes to protect the paintings, and the public didn't like that either.
Yeah.
So... Maybe they couldn't be satisfied.
Either way. Yeah.
Either way, there should have been more guards.
Yeah.
Because there was one source that said 150 guards
for
400 rooms.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to the Louvre, but I can imagine that if it's one guard every other room, if it's 3 a.m. and you're just trying to stay awake, if you're standing in the doors adjacent to one, that's like 2 rooms on the far end, possibly 4 rooms for the ones in between, where there's no eyeballs. But it's 3 a.m. and you're trying to stay awake, right? So I can imagine that if you're just trying to get through the night, you're not going to be doing your full laps and being your full secure self.
Yeah, exactly.
This is from somebody who's never worked in security. So,
That's fair.
So security guards of Dreary Midnight, please weigh in.
All right. So, what came of the investigations? Like I said, there were 60 investigators hired to work on this case.
Are they doing, what kinds of things are they doing? Are they just doing interviews? Are they doing, like, fingerprinting? Or
We'll get into that.
Okay.
So, as far as clues, there wasn't much to go on. The most important discovery was found about an hour after the 60 investigators began searching the Louvre. They found the controversial plate of glass and Mona Lisa's frame lying in a staircase.
Okay.
The frame, which had been donated 2 years prior, had not been damaged.
Okay.
Investigators speculated that the thief grabbed the painting off the wall, entered the stairwell, removed the painting from its frame, and then somehow left the museum unnoticed.
Okay.
Investigators began to interview guards and workers to determine when the Mona Lisa went missing. One worker remembered having seen the painting around 7 o'clock on Monday morning, but noticed it was gone when he walked by the Salon Carré an hour later. He had assumed a museum official had moved it.
Okay. So we've narrowed the window to 7 to 8 a.m. on Monday. Okay.
The usual guard in the Salon Carré, where the Mona Lisa had been housed, was home at the time of the theft, caring for one of his children who had had the measles. The guard's replacement admitted leaving his post for a few minutes around 8 o'clock to smoke a cigarette.
I mean, worst timing of a childhood illness ever, right?
Not worst timing of the childhood illness, more like worst timing of going to get your cigarette
Yeah.
break.
Yeah. Like, reasons not to smoke number however many dozen at this point.
But it was France
Sometimes-
in 1911. You think that they're going to say don't smoke?
Yeah, true. At this point, they're probably still thinking it's good for your lungs for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, I missed my spot because I started laughing and scrolled up. Okay. All of this evidence pointed to the theft occurring somewhere between 7 o'clock and 8:30 on Monday morning. On Mondays, the Louvre was closed for cleaning, which led investigators to believe that this may have been an inside job.
Yeah.
Approximately 800 people had access to the Salon Carré on Monday morning. Wandering throughout the museum were museum officials, guards, workmen, cleaners, and photographers.
And those are the 800 that constitute having access.
Yes.
And not necessarily, like,
It was not
the
open to the-
Egyptian archivists or whatever.
Well, I guess he would be a museum official.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
However, interviews with these people brought out very little.
Okay.
One person thought that they had seen a stranger hanging out, but he was unable to match the stranger's face with photos at the police station. The investigators brought in Alphonse Bertillon, a famous fingerprint expert. He found a thumbprint on the Mona Lisa's frame, but he was unable to match it with any of his files. So, in the days to follow, theories about the identity and motive of the thief spread like wildfire. Since tensions were high between France and Germany, they started pointing fingers at each other. Some Frenchmen blamed the Germans, believing the theft to be a ploy to demoralize their country. Some Germans, on the other hand, thought it was a ploy by the French to distract from the international concerns.
What were the international concerns at this point?
Well, this was right before World War I.
Yeah, but it's still like
I don't know.
3 to 5 years out.
There was... Hold on. Give me a second. Because I did read
I
about
can
it.
imagine it's still like general dissatisfaction with nobility as they knew it at the time and that kind of thing.
It's in one of these articles. I just can't remember which one. It just says tensions were escalating between France and Germany ahead of World War I.
Okay. Well, French historians of Dreary Midnight weigh in.
I'm sure I'm sure I could look it up, but I think that would take me more time.
Yeah. Anyway, so tensions are rising.
Also, apparently Franz Kafka was one of the people who went to see the
Oh, cool.
missing
Yeah.
Mona Lisa.
Yeah. Kafka, author.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. The bug metamorphosis, not the oven metamorphosis.
The cockroach one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway.
Okay. So, I only know that because I have a degree in English that I'm
Same.
not using.
Same. Well, you're using it to write the script, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as I say
for
that
my own personal projects
also
too.
as an English major, yes, I do use those skills regularly.
To write this.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. So, the prefect of the police had several theories quoted in a 1912 story in the New York Times. The thieves, I'm inclined to think there were more than one, got away with it all right. So far, nothing is known of their identity and whereabouts. I'm certain that the motive was not a political one, but maybe it is a case of sabotage, brought about by discontent among the Louvre employees. Possibly, on the other hand, the theft was committed by a maniac. A more serious possibility is that La Gioconda was stolen by someone who plans to make a monetary profit by blackmailing the government. Anyway, that was the police theories.
Okay.
At one point, American tycoon and art lover J.P. Morgan was suspected of commissioning the theft.
Okay. But
Like-
why?
Because there were tensions between a lot of the French had tensions with American millionaires who were like buying French artworks.
Oh, like the nouveau riche kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similarly, Pablo Picasso was also considered a suspect and was questioned but was found.
Wasn't he at like 80s at that point?
In 1911?
I don't know the timeline of Pablo Picasso, so
Let's
maybe
look
not.
up the timeline of Pablo Picasso.
Yeah.
Pablo Picasso.
Oh, wait, no, because he died in the 70s. Or
He
60s.
was famous. Well, he was pretty. And if you look up the Wikipedia, 1908 is when his picture is on this little thing.
Yeah.
So he must have been an artist during that time. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
Cubism was 1909 to 1912, which
Yeah.
is right, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's born in 1881, so he's approaching 30 at the time of the theft, and was 91 when he died in the 70s. But anyway.
So, either way.
So, yeah, he's questioned because he's on the rise, I guess. Anyway.
It didn't say why he was questioned. It just mentioned he was.
Okay.
So multiple articles mentioned he was, which is why
Yeah.
no, it was true.
Yeah.
Some theories blamed a Louvre worker who maybe stole the painting in order to reveal how bad the Louvre was at protecting their treasures. Others believe the whole thing was done as a joke and that the painting would be returned anonymously shortly.
Okay.
Like a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
But days went by, then weeks, then months. Finally, 2 years had passed with no sign of the Mona Lisa.
Oh my god.
Yeah. In the fall of 1913, 28 months after the Mona Lisa was stolen, a well-known antique dealer in Florence, Italy, named Alfredo Geri, placed an ad in several Italian newspapers which stated that he was a buyer at good prices of art objects of every sort.
Okay.
Soon afterwards, Geri received a... Is it Jerry or Gary? I think we say Jerry, because it's funner. Received a letter dated November 29th, 1913, that stated the writer was in possession of the stolen Mona Lisa. The letter had a post office box in Paris as a return address and had been signed only as Leonardo.
Remaining, or at least putting the P.O. box in Paris is kind of daring.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, it feels like if you
stole the painting, why didn't you leave?
Yeah, like leave. Like, I get waiting the 2 years or whatever, but then just have it turn up in some coastal village or something. Like, don't stay in Paris.
I know.
Anyway, this is not official legal advice.
Naturally, Jerry thought that this person must have a copy of the Mona Lisa and was trying to pass it off as a stolen piece. But just to be safe, he contacted Giovanni Poggi, museum director of Florence's... Okay, I'm going to look up how
Academia?
to say this. Uffizi. Uffizi Museum. Thank you.
Apparently I went there too.
How was it?
I don't remember. Okay.
Uffizi.
Yeah.
Jerry and Poggi. I don't know how to pronounce Italian. Do they do the... It's a Romance language.
Yeah.
I know that. But I'm hesitant to do like Spanish because that's different, even though it's similar.
Yeah. Just go with what your heart tells you and have all of our Italian speakers gently correct you in the comments with voice notes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jerry and Poggi decided that Jerry would write a letter to the mysterious Leonardo saying that he would need to see the painting in person before he could offer a price.
Yeah. And Poggi is the one from the Uffizi?
Yes.
Okay.
And Jerry is the art
Collector. Or buyer, antiques guy.
Buyer.
Yeah.
Another letter came almost immediately, asking Jerry to go to Paris to see the painting. Jerry stated he could not go to Paris and arranged for Leonardo to meet him in Milan on December 22nd. On December 10th, 1913, an Italian man with a mustache appeared at Jerry's sales office in Florence. After waiting for other customers to leave, the stranger told Jerry that he was Leonardo Vincenzo and that he had the Mona Lisa back in his hotel room.
Okay, so you said a guy with a mustache comes in, and it's like a mustache in 1912? Groundbreaking. But
it's just to paint a picture, basically.
Yeah. Still.
He had dark hair.
Yeah.
He was, he was like early 30s.
So our age, okay.
Yeah,
anyway.
He was actually 32 years old. So if you want to be specific, he was a year older than me. Okay.
All right, so he's like, oh, I have it in my hotel room.
Yes. So... Leonardo stated that he wanted a $500,000 lyre for the painting and explained that he had stolen the painting in order to restore to Italy what had been stolen from it by Napoleon. Leonardo put forward the condition that if Geri were to purchase the painting, the Mona Lisa was to be hung at the Uffizi and never given back to France.
Okay.
Geri agreed to the price, but said that the director of the Uffizi would want to see the painting before agreeing to hang it in the museum.
Okay.
Leonardo then suggested they meet in his hotel room the next day. Okay. Upon his leaving, Geri contacted the police and the Uffizi.
Okay. Saying, hey, we have a lead on that Mona Lisa thing from a few years ago. Okay.
The following day, Geri and Poggi appeared at Leonardo's hotel room. Leonardo pulled out a wooden trunk, which contained a pair of underwear, some old shoes, and a shirt. Beneath that, Leonardo removed a false bottom from the trunk, and there lay the Mona Lisa.
Part of me is just glad that he didn't put it right up against his underpants.
I think that would have decreased the value of it.
Yeah,
That's
a whole lot.
Yeah. Geri and the museum director noticed and recognized the Louvre seal on the back of the painting, confirming that this was indeed the real Mona Lisa.
Yeah. That's because I was going to ask, would you tell that? But if they have the seal, then...
They have the seal.
Yeah.
The museum director said that he would need to compare the painting with other works by Leonardo da Vinci. They then walked out with the painting. A half hour later, police were at Leonardo's door.
Okay. And I'm also just impressed that Leonardo just let them leave with it. Like, not even putting, like, a 20% deposit or some shit. Like, if you're gonna extort somebody, at least get some of the money. This is not official legal advice. I'm just thinking.
You're just pointing out everything he did wrong so that people know exactly how to steal the Mona Lisa.
Oh, to not be a man in 1912.
So, who was this Leonardo?
Who was he indeed?
The mastermind behind the infamous theft was an Italian handyman named Vincenzo Perugia. Perugia, born in Italy, had worked in Paris at the Louvre starting in 1908.
Oh, so he was a regular sight to behold on Monday Fix'em days.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, it's a smart way to do it.
The handyman had been hired by the Louvre to make those controversial glass cases for some of his famous works, including the Mona Lisa. So he was the glass
The guy
person.
doing all the glass stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perugia and two accomplices, brothers Vincent and Michel Lancelotti,
Okay.
I don't know, had entered the museum on Sunday and hid in a storeroom overnight. The next morning, while the museum was closed for cleaning, the men dressed in workmen's smocks and came out of the storeroom. The men lifted 200 pounds of painting, frame, and protective glass case off the wall. They went into the stairwell and removed the protective glass and the frame from the Mona Lisa. The Lancelotti brothers dumped the frame and glass in the staircase. Perugia, still known by many of the guards, grabbed the Mona Lisa, which was painted on a white polar panel, wooden panel, measuring 38 by 21 inches. He grabbed the Mona Lisa and wrapped it in a painter's smock. He was ready to walk out the building when he discovered the door was locked.
Oh, no.
Perugia desperately removed the doorknob. It still wouldn't open until a helpful plumber passing by opened the door with his key.
Bet that guy regrets ever helping anybody.
I know. And with that, the wooden canvas covered with a smock was hustled off to the train station where the trio boarded a 7:47 a.m. express train out of the city.
Oh, so it really is in that 7 to 8 a.m. window. Yeah.
They had successfully stolen the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. So I have in my head that the Mona Lisa, is it like a stiff canvas or is it one of those flexible ones? Do you know?
It's a wooden canvas.
So, like, it's not like they could have rolled it up and put it in a backpack or something.
No.
It's like, it's very obvious you're carrying something flat.
So there were sources saying that he had actually put it underneath his smock.
Okay.
And, like, carried it out like that.
Okay.
But measuring how big the canvas is,
yeah,
he wouldn't have been able to. So what he actually did was wrap it up in another smock and kind of carry it out.
Okay. Like, so it's like you've bundled up your smock or something and just carrying around your smock. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
why?
Why did he steal it?
I've been wondering that for a while.
Well, Perugia claimed that it was for, like you said before, Italian nationalism. The French had stolen all these Italian artworks and he was trying to get them back. And I think part of him really thought that he would be heralded as like an Italian hero. But it has been pointed out, like, if it was really just to restore the paintings, he could have donated it to the museum anonymously.
Yeah, he could have sent it to the Uffizi. He could have
sent it to the Uffizi.
Gotten a position at the Uffizi or like the Minia or all of these other amazing Italian museums, and then somehow gotten the funding to buy all of these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could have donated it to the museum years prior to its discovery.
Yeah.
So likely what actually happened is he wanted to sell it. And it was likely targeted the Mona Lisa because it was valuable as one of Da Vinci's early works, but it was still inconspicuous enough to sell because it wasn't a famous painting.
Yeah.
It was a painting that was famous enough to get a good price, but not famous enough to raise eyebrows.
Because you had said, like, art people knew that this was a masterwork or whatever, but non-art people were like, here's another painting of some guy, I guess, or some lady.
Like, they knew who Da Vinci was, but like he had painted it in, what did I say, 1507?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 1860
that
people started paying attention to it.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is that because he stole it, it ended up getting on all the newspapers.
Yes.
And because it was now on all the newspapers, it was no longer inconspicuous. It was now
nationally famous.
Hot news.
Yeah.
So now it was too risky for him to try to sell it.
Yeah. Which makes sense why he waited 2 years until you write anonymously.
Exactly. So he waited 2 years, and unfortunately, I guess 2 years wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
Because it was still a hot topic.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he took so long in selling it.
And I can imagine, I don't know for sure, but I can imagine that if you're a museum official in a major place like the Louvre or the Uffizi or any of the other major museums in Europe, I can imagine that you're at least in somewhat contact with your equivalent in the at least one or two of the others, or at least know of them, or how to get in touch with them. So like, you have art drama on your radar. So going to a major museum where a lot of the people likely have art drama on their radar, like, why go to the Uffizi and not like Joe Schmo's painting shack?
Because he wanted a price.
Yeah.
And
Joe Schmo's Joe Schmo's painting shack couldn't
give him $500,000 for it.
Yeah. Fair.
So, which is why I'm like, it was obviously for
It was
money.
for the money, yeah.
It was for the money. So, the three men were tried and found guilty in a tribunal in 1914. Perugia received a 1-year sentence, which was later reduced to 7 months, and he went home to Italy. There was a war in the works, a war that would be known as the Great War, rather World War I, and the resolved art theft was no longer newsworthy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because, somebody is getting shot, and then a lot of people are getting shot.
Yeah. Also, apparently he fought in World War I.
Huh.
So, yeah. However, because of his theft, the Mona Lisa would become one of the most famous and recognizable paintings in the world, all thanks to the fact that she was targeted because she wasn't famous in the first place. And that is the story of how the Mona Lisa was stolen and became one of the most recognizable paintings known to man.
Incredible. Love it. Well, don't love it, but...
I mean, it came back.
Yeah.
It was unharmed.
Do we know if they're still doing the glass case type of stuff for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
There have been several instances of people vandalizing or attempting to vandalize the Mona Lisa. None of them have been truly successful.
Okay.
But because the glass painting is there, that's the reason that they're not really that successful.
Okay.
A lot of protesters, a lot of just people in general, like there was one lady who threw a teacup at it.
Just like cuz?
Just cause. There
Okay.
was one guy who threw a rock at it, and they interviewed him, and he was like, I had a rock in my pocket, and I just felt like doing it.
Okay.
But most of the time, it's because people are protesting something,
Okay.
and it's a way to... I don't agree with that, personally, but, you know.
Yeah. There's more effective ways, I think, of protesting stuff.
To like, make it so people take your cause seriously.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's
and-
neither here nor there. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, vandalizing a 500-year-old piece of art...
I think usually it just doesn't have to do with what they're
Yeah.
protesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, is, like, if you're vandalizing... Why vandalize the 500-year-old piece of art? If you have the issue with the institution, like, take it up with some other public-facing thing of the institution, or whichever institution you have your grievances with.
I mean, I understand the reasoning. It's because it's going to be talked about, because it's such a high topic. Well, because obviously the Mona Lisa is super famous.
Yeah.
But that's why they have now that, like, it's
Way back.
It's way back. You have to be, what's it called? Like, behind a...
A certain scansion or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, it still has glass pane. So even though people have thrown paint and soup and stuff at it, they're able to just kind of wipe it away.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So
Any
that's
final
the Mona
thoughts?
Lisa. I saw this and was like, Lisa would love to hear this. So I'm going to make this my research topic.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it was real fun. I love hearing about it. And if you want to keep hearing us talk about all this stuff, support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/drearymidnights. Follow us on Instagram at drearymidnightpod. And if you have any corrections about our French or Italian pronunciations, send us an email, a polite email with a polite voice note, giving your corrections, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com.
I'm so sorry.
Or comment on Spotify, again, very gently, because you can leave us comments on Spotify now. And you can find us on all the major podcast platforms. We're going to be trying and getting our RSS feed onto YouTube because Google Podcast is going away. So keep an eye out for that if that is your format of choice. And with all that said, don't steal art.
And if you're going to steal art, just know that it might become world famous, and then it'd be really hard for you to sell it.
Yeah. So
don't
be
do it.
smart with your art selections, and don't trust AI with your art. Just in general, don't trust AI with your art.
Don't steal art, man. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Don't steal art.
Okay, fun thing. It'll probably cost you about as much to commission an artist to do a small little doodle for yourself as it would to pay something like some sort of specialty AI to do it. And it's original piece that you can keep for yourself.
Yeah, and you know, you paid for somebody's living wage.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah, you can help pay a actual human's rent and not some computers.
Exactly.
So we are a pro creator.
And humans know how to draw hands.
Yeah.
Unlike AI, who just fuck it up every time.
All right. So we are a pro artist channel on this channel. And with all that said, safe travels home on this dreary midnight. Good night.
Good night.